MOUSEPI for hire is 2 games pretending to be one, and it somewhat works. I do want to say PlaySide sent me a free key for this. I didn't pay for it, and it doesn't change my take. I just wanted you guys to know. So you just saw it. What is even this game? MOUSEPI for hire is an indie boomer shooter. It's black and white, it's hand-drawn. It's built around that 1930s, 40s noir cartoon energy. Think Steamboat Willie meets Cuphead. You play a mouse detective, voiced by Troy Baker, if you know him. There's jazz, there's cheese puns, there's bodies everywhere. I did play it on Steam with a controller, and it took me about 10 hours on standard difficulty. The first thing that really hits for me when it comes to the game is that mouse just really commits to the bit. The whole package is locked in. The visuals, the soundtrack, the dialogue, everything is pulling in that same direction. It's got that black and white rubber hose animation from the old games. It's got jazz at every turn. A mouse detective who talks like he's straight out of the 1940s, mystery noir. Even though it is in that cartoon style, so it does kind of lean into that a little bit. There's no real hard winks to what it's doing. It's we're a silly kind of energy. It does kind of keep it a little serious within its, style of game. And what I mean by committing to the bit, it really sticks to that stylistic aesthetic that it has to the game and keeps it going throughout it and just commits to it. Have you ever had that moment where you watch somebody where they're just so into what they're doing that you just believe that's what they are? That's kind of this thing. One of the biggest ways it does this to me is it commits to its dialogue. It sticks to that 90s, 30s, 40s noir kind of scenario of talk. Every character feels like it belongs there, every vehicle, every weapon, every building. One of the coolest things is it doesn't really just stick to its era. It has references throughout the 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe some things that I even missed. If you're a movie buff or you used to watch a lot of movies, you probably catch a lot of those references. It wouldn't be a mouse game without cheese puns. It really commits to it constantly. The game really runs on it. When you get past the aesthetics of the game, that's when Doom or Boomer Shooter kind of starts showing up in the game. The shooting is fast, there's no aim down the sights, you just point, shoot, keep moving. While you're doing all the shooting, the movement matches it right on point. There's actually also some upgrades with double jumps that sound like cartoon springs whenever you jump up. There's wall running, there's a grapple hook, all the modern boomer shooter toys that they decided to add to the 1930s aesthetic. I haven't played these types of games in a while, so it took me about 10 minutes for it to really click, and it's just natural at that point. You get through the moving and shooting at the same time, and it just really flows once you really get into it. It's kind of wild that it just kind of commits to that Doom feeling so hard, and it kind of works. Not every level has bosses, but it does lean into having some thematic boss fights throughout the game. For the most part, it's not really built around a puzzle. It's, built around an idea or a fight design, something that follows it, some kind of fighting concept as you play through the boss. There was one that kind of gave me a little bit of trouble. It wasn't unfair or too hard. It just was more or less, I had to kind of figure out how to really play through that theme and move around and just juggle about all the stuff that was going on. I will say that every boss fight they do fit into the game does fit to the level that they put it in and feel like it belongs whenever you play it. Another part of the game is, collectibles, which I'll mention a little bit later. But on those collectibles, typically you can open up safes or unlock doors or something like that, and there's like a little small lock-picking game. The reason I mention this is a small little detail that I really liked about the game. At first, whenever you play the lock-picking game, it's like a snake-style mini game. You navigate through the lock without backtracking on your own. But here's the kicker, whenever you actually start going through the puzzle of the lockpick, you can actually undo your mistakes. That's kind of cool. So whenever you do it, you don't have to fail just because of one mistake. It's a tiny thing, but it tells me the developers really thought about what they were trying to achieve throughout this game. Another small thing that I really liked was some of the audio cues that it had, and one in particular. Every combat starts and ends with a bell ring. It's kind of like a boxing match or a wrestling match if you've ever seen one. It has that bell ring at the beginning and the end. And why do I like that? It's because it's kind of a tiny detail that tells you the fight is over. You don't have to search around for that last guy and think that maybe you lost something, you don't have to keep checking corners. That's the kind of pacing that really adds up whenever you play a game like this. And like most shooters, it has weapon upgrades. It's more or less a stat bump where you get more damage, less recoil, that kind of thing. Another little tiny detail is that the gun model changes whenever you upgrade the weapon visually, and I thought that was kind of cool. It doesn't really do anything for the gun itself, but it's more of a visual change, which kind of fits back into that aesthetic vibe. So now that we've talked about a lot of the moment-to-moment gameplay, there's more to it. There is also what happens between the shooting. So between missions, you're driving essentially. You hop in a car, pick a destination on the map, drive there, rinse and repeat. There are stops along the way, side missions you can take or skip. I did the whole Shrews storyline, which has its own little arc that wraps up well. As you're driving through the map, there are reload checkpoints, well, bars, that you can go and reload your weapons or upgrade your weapons, that kind of thing. But the map is more or less go to point A, go to point B. It's not that deep, but it gives the game some shape between the shooting parts. You can actually do like a card game. It's kind of a baseball card game. It's fairly simple, very easy to follow. The instructions are very easy to go by. For the most part, what you're doing is grinding a simple mini game to get something special towards the end of it. I thought it was more or less fun, but I felt it was a little bit of more filler than anything else. But I can see people having fun with the card game and just kind of getting lost in it. But for me, I was more interested in getting through the story and seeing what happens. So speaking of the story, it's light enough to follow without really thinking too much about it. It fits the aesthetic, the mood, the whole vibe, and I was there for it. I would say it doesn't have that depth that you would expect from a noir mystery. There are some moments I probably won't talk about right now, but it was still good to follow and have fun with. But just don't expect anything deep out of it. To me, the reason is that Mouse really knows what it is. It's a shooter first and a noir mystery game second, which honestly is fine with me. It's more or less Doom with a fedora. So when Mouse works, it's really because it sticks to what it's doing the most, the Doom thing. And when it doesn't work, it's when it doesn't stick to the Doom thing. So here's the thing, Mouse does call itself a detective game, but there really isn't any detective about it. You pick up clues, you put them on the board, and the next mission unlocks. That's really it. There's no deduction, there's no wrong turns, no choice, no failure state. The crime board just fills itself up. It's really a detective game where the detective work kind of plays itself. The detective stuff is more or less to move the story forward and not to really linger as much. So another thing I want to talk about is there's 11 weapons in this game. I used 3 most of the time. Whenever you get the gun, there's usually 3 upgrades. The first tier does have a secondary fire. I didn't really use it that much. The other 2 tiers are mostly just stat bumps, you know, more damage or less recoil, that kind of thing. There's no real behavior changes to the gun. Nothing else changes about it besides maybe that visual that I mentioned earlier. As you go through the game, you do acquire them. And one of the guns I will just mention for now is a ray gun that I picked up once, used it on a few guys, and never used it again. There's a few other guns I used a little bit more often, but most of the time I kind of stuck to my tried and true 3 that I had. I do like that the game gives you an arsenal, but doesn't really give you a reason to use most of them. So old me is a bit of a completionist at heart. And one of the things that bugged me is that there's 215 collectibles in this game, 89 schematics, and they're spread across all the levels. So what happens if you miss one? You can't go back and get it. It's gone, and the only choice you really have is to restart the game from scratch or go back to an old save that you had. There's no chapter select, no new game plus. I can't remember if that's kind of a staple for these types of games, but it kind of bugged me a little bit. You can buy newspapers and cards from the shop sometimes, but the schematics and the secret figures, they're gone. With the length of this game and there's just so much missable content, that's kind of a design choice that fights the game that fights my own completionist energy. It might even fight itself a little bit. I mean, here's a ton of stuff to find, but you only really get one shot to find it. And that all led up to one thing that made me sad. The game broke on me. And when I say broke, it broke. I was towards the end of the game, I had 2 missions left. I had a clue that I needed to put on the board, so I did. And you know what's supposed to happen after that? It's supposed to populate and give you the new mission. But guess what? It didn't. I just sat there and I was like, what's going on? I drove around the map. I revisited places I could visit, even though you can't go back to different levels and pick up things that maybe you lost, because that's what I was thinking. Maybe I lost something. But nope, I checked the forums. I wasn't the only one. I reloaded old saves to try to see if I can get back. I've had like 4 saves back, nothing. On the forums, I did see a bunch of players having a similar issue, and it's on the mission called Glugging from the Deep, and it's with the same exact bug. So my options were, wait for a patch or replay the whole game. And I want to be fair to PlaySide. They've been patching this game since it came out. There was a few missable clues that they did fix, and it looks like this one got missed. I went ahead and contacted PlaySide. I'm already in contact with them, and I want to see if I can help them figure out this bug. I wasn't going to sit around and wait, and I definitely wasn't going to replay 10 hours just to see the last 30 minutes. So what did I do? I went ahead and pulled up the ending on YouTube, looked at the last 2 missions just to see if I really missed a lot. But the truth is, I already knew what I felt about this game 8 hours into the game. And I really felt like the last hour of the game wasn't going to change that. Watching it on YouTube confirmed that. While I'm a little sad I didn't get to finish it completely, I do plan on going back once it's patched to finish it. I'm not really mad about it. I had a good time playing MOUSEPI, and I wish I just could finish it at the time. MOUSEPI to me is a game that I definitely would recommend to anybody that likes these type of shooters. I would also recommend it to people that like this kind of aesthetic and want to try something different. I will say the game is a bit on the simplistic side, but it actually works in its favor. MOUSEPI High for Hire is a confused game that works because it's kind of confident in what it's doing. It sticks with the aesthetic, it sticks with the style of shooter, and it really just nails it. I personally love the style and I love the swing. It probably swayed me a bit much. I played 10 hours of it, watched the ending, and I'd probably do it again eventually. So what's a game that was two things that actually worked out for you too? I'd like to hear it in the comments. Drop it down there. I'll see you on the next one.